statistics. We often hear about what are we doing about juveniles and how are juveniles contributing to these crimes. And so I wanted to give an opportunity for our director at DRYS to come forward and talk about the juvenile situation in 4D, talk about juveniles who are committed to the community, either in a group home or to their own families, and also an initiative that he's working on with the chief of identifying the juveniles who the government knows are in trouble, are the top risk for offending and being violent. Mr. Hildum.
Good morning. Good morning. It's an honor to be here for a number of reasons. I've always enjoyed going to community meetings, and most of the time, over the last 3 years, I've gone as the representative of the Office of the Attorney General when I was the Deputy Attorney General for Public Safety. On July 26th, the mayor appointed me the interim director of DRYS. And I know from reading the listserv questions that there are some questions about DRYS, and particularly the last couple of years, there have been some high-profile incidents, and I'll talk about those briefly. And I want to be as brief as I can right now so we can get to questions. But one thing I want to say, though, is that I'm not just here representing DRYS. I walked here this morning, and as of Labor Day, I am a resident of Ward 4. And also, I live near 14th and Allison, so, I'm sorry? Looking at the crime briefing this morning, it touches me more personally, I think, than it has before, because I do live here in Ward 4. Let me talk to you a little bit about what we've been working on since I took over DRYS. The first thing to talk about with DRYS is that 5 years ago, there was a massive effort at reform, and there have been a lot of really great things that have happened. We were able to close Oak Hill, which was notorious and a terrible place for anybody to go, let alone kids. It was dirty, it was mismanaged, it was terrible. And last year, finally, we were able to close Oak Hill and open a new facility. Kids in our custody and our secure custody have never been better treated in terms of health, safety, food, programming. That being said, we all know in the past year, and anybody who's been reading Colbert King knows, that there have been some problems. And primarily those problems have involved youth who have been released back into the community. So what I have done since I took over DRYS is approximately 900 cases. I dug into those cases and reviewed every file, and I'm well over halfway through right now. And by doing that, I wanted to make sure that kids who were released in the community were being watched closely, and also that they were getting the services that we had promised they would get. So having done that, a tremendous number of kids who sort of drifted away from our supervision have been brought, as I say, brought back home. They've been reconnected with a case manager, they've been hooked up with community services and with other programming, and we're keeping a very, very close eye on that. We've been doing it one kid at a time. It's been fairly tedious, but I think it has had some success. The council member mentioned my effort to really identify our most at-risk youth, and I've been working with MPD and other district agencies to be able to do that. We're not doing it to pick on the kids, we're not doing it to target the kids, we're not doing it to harass the kids. We're doing it for two reasons. One, to help and protect the kids, and two, for public safety, to protect all of us. Because a juvenile who's been committed to the Department of Youth and Rehabilitative Services, who is not being watched in the community, I think is at great risk. Because prior to this, there's a reason why he got committed to us, and there's a history of not making very good decisions. So we have been working very, very hard to to make sure that we're keeping a very, very close eye on these kids. And I think that we've had some success doing that. You will hear from a lot of sources statistics that only, the crime in the District of Columbia, 6% is committed by juveniles. That you will hear that juvenile crime is down. Both of those things are true, except for one significant piece, which is armed robberies are completely out of whack with all the other statistics. While juveniles make up 6% of all the crime in the District of Columbia, right now they make up about 48% of the armed robberies. So those are incredibly dangerous, potentially fatal situations where we have kids 14, 15, 16, 17 years old using guns to rob people. And so when you look at the juvenile problem, you really have to focus in not on the 5 or 6%, not on the fact, and it is a fact that juvenile crime is going down, but you really have to focus on those violent criminal acts, because that's where it becomes the most dangerous, and that's where we have tried to focus our resources and to really get a handle on the kids in our care before we send them back into the community. And just to let you know, there are about 900 or so kids who are committed to DRYS. There are another 2,400 or so who are under the supervision of court social services, which is basically probation. I have been working very, very hard with the court and frankly reestablishing a relationship with the court that was not there previously. Reestablishing a relationship with court social services where that relationship has been frazzled, frayed the last few years, and establishing a much stronger relationship with MPD for their assistance and their help. And I think that that has worked very, very well in my 2 months in office, that we have been able to coordinate our resources and, again, keep the kids safe and keep our communities safe. I want to conclude real quick, and I look forward to your questions. There are several questions I saw that need to be answered, but we have kids who abscond from their placements. And that's been as high as about 8% of our population. It depends on how you measure it and so forth. But the 2 months prior to me taking over, we picked up 54 kids who were in what we call abscondents. Since I've taken over DRYS, in the 2-month period after me taking over, we've picked up well over 100 kids who've been in abscondents. So we're getting to them faster. We're getting them off the street, and we're getting them back into programming, whether that means that we keep them in secure detention or whether we put them back in the community with very, very tight conditions and very strong supervision. So that's one place where MPD has absolutely helped us, and that we have been able to keep a closer eye on the kids. So that concludes my remarks. I just want to thank you all. I want to thank Councilmember Bowser for being here, and Chief Lanier and Commander Missouri, as well as Vincent Cohen from the U.S. Attorney's Office. So thank you very much.